Good afternoon, everybody. This meeting of the Woodland Park Board of Review is now in session. Karen, are you doing the roll call?
I can, sir. Yes,
Would you please?
sure. Jeff Cahill,
Here.
Jeff Smith,
Here.
Martine Vogel, here. Cole Swanson,
Here.
and Mac McVicker.
Here. We have a quorum. We have an official meeting. If everybody would please stand up and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. If I honorably discharge our current active vet, you may salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. The next item on our agenda is election of officers.
I would like to propose that we extend your wonderful tenure here on the board to be our leader again for another couple of years.
Do we have a second?
Second. And I'm unsure, is it a 2-year or 3-year thing you want to be appointed for?
I got a second. CJ, do you have that other recorder going?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, just making sure. Okay, so the second was Mr. Smith.
And since we've all been here and done this before, we can save a little time. Let's go ahead and get the vice chair position out of the way.
I'd like to make a recommendation. This is Jeff Cahill. We have Mr. Smith, Mr. Jeff Smith, take on the responsibilities as vice chair.
I second that. So are there any more nominations? Nobody jumping?
And
up?
Mac seconded that?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
No more nominations. We'll call for a vote. All in favor of Mac McVicker as chair, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All in favor of Mr. Jeff Smith as vice chair, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Jeff, looks like we're stuck with it again. Approval of minute meetings from our November 20th meeting is the next item on the agenda. Mr. Cahill does a great job as our editor. Did you find anything wrong?
I did not. I found Mr. Burgess did a very good job.
Yes,
He's the one who did the editing.
and unfortunately, Jeff is not here to hear our unanimous praise for him.
Dave.
Dave Burgess.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
said Jeff though.
You said Jeff.
I'm sorry.
And we're Jeff.
We're gonna get
Yes.
after you.
Jeff 1, Jeff 2.
Jeff 1, Jeff 2. So anyway, he does a great job on this. I'm sorry he's not here to hear the praise, but I also read it, didn't find any mistakes. And could I hear a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Martine seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, the minutes are approved as submitted. We have no consent items. We have no complaints. And we're down to item number 7, variance or appeals hearing. So before us today is variance request 2026-01B. The location of this is 516 North Center Street. Carl Anderson with Anderson Enterprises on behalf of owner Jason Schmidt request a variance to section 403.1.4.1 of the International Residential Code and section 303.4.37 of the Pikes Peak Regional Building Code to allow for a shallow foundation footing design for the construction of a 40-foot by 30-foot unconditioned detached garage structure on the owner's property. Now, before I go any further, just to enter into the record, there was a chance encounter between myself and the applicant at a Veterans Day celebration here in Woodland Park on November the 11th, 2025. None of the details of this were discussed. And I feel confident that I can render a fair and objective decision from my vote on this variance. Does anybody have any questions or objection to what I just stated?
This is Jeff Cahill. I don't have any about you, Matt, but on the same token, I need to disclose that I had Alpine Engineering work on my property when I was building my garage extension.
Okay,
So
and will that affect your
I don't believe,
objectiveness?
I don't
Okay.
believe so.
Are there any further disclosures that need to be made?
I've worked with Ralph at Alpine Engineering in the past.
Okay,
That's it.
and you feel you can render a,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay. That being said,
I might as well. I've worked with Ralph. I know these guys, so yeah, but I can still do a fair.
okay,
Let's make it unanimous. How about you, Cole?
I have nothing to say on that.
so with that having been rendered by the members of the board, I feel we shall proceed to this. Now, representing the applicant, Mr. Carl Anderson is in attendance. And who is the gentleman next to you?
This is the homeowner, this is Jason Schmidt.
Excuse me, the microphone's not gonna pick that up, but just so you might want to repeat it, Mac.
I'm sorry.
You might want to repeat what he says.
Wanted that after the microphone.
I need to go to the lectern.
Well, we are having some audio visual difficulties, Carl. We apologize for that.
For it.
Um,
So I am Carl Anderson Enterprises, Jason Schmidt. He is the homeowner that is wanting to build this detached garage. Does that not work either? Yeah,
I'll in position in the old.
All right, as if you couldn't hear me before. My name is Carl Anderson Enterprises. This is Jason Schmidt. He is the homeowner that is wishing to build this detached garage that is in question of the foundation.
welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yep.
And representing Pikes Peak Regional, John, is it you today?
That is me, Mr. Chair.
So representing Regional is John Welton, Deputy Building Official for Pikes Peak Regional Building Department. We normally let the applicant go first. So Carl, you have the floor.
Okay. Do you have in your paperwork, do you have the engineering from Alpine Engineering and the letter that he provided supporting his decision on this type of monopore?
Butter. Well, no, online. Oh, no. Look at the big stuff.
If you don't, may I approach and show you what I'm wanting you to look for?
So
Yes.
we have several pieces of paper, Carl. Is this
Sir,
the?
in your packet, you've got some 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. It is the second page. So there's the application form itself. These were duplexed. So on the back side of that page is the letter.
That,
At least in my packet, it was duplexed.
that's part of the.
Yes. Of this.
First sheets.
Got it.
Here we go. That's the one we saw.
Okay, so a quick little cover story here. So this project involves a one-story enclosed, non-habitable, detached accessory structure with a total area of 1,200 square feet. PPR D disapproved the foundation engineering based on IRC section 403.1.4.1 regarding frost protection, which requires foundations extending a minimum of 30 inches below undisturbed ground surface. The foundation for this structure was specifically engineered based on on-site conditions, including groundwater depth and soil composition. The licensed engineer of record evaluated these factors, designed the foundation accordingly, and it is the engineer's professional and experienced judgment that the proposed foundation system is appropriate, structurally sound, and suitable for the intended non-habitable use of this detached accessory structure under the existing site conditions. So, as you can see, Ralph did both the soils testing, then did the engineering for the foundation as a monopore slab. And honestly, that was when he did that design, he was unaware that the code did not allow for any foundation of this size not having frost protection. He thought that the monopore was perfectly fine under the code. And then obviously PPRD let us know that that was not the case. And when I went back to Ralph with this scenario, he, his feeling was that this was still the best way to build this foundation versus footer stem wall that we're going to encounter the groundwater that we found just a couple of feet below the surface in this situation. So that's why he then wrote the letter, stating that he still feels that this is the best way to go in this scenario.
Any questions for Carl at this time?
Well, I have a couple. I noticed this is Jeff Cahill. I noticed in the printout for all the boilerplate information that was submitted, that you can either choose to do 6-inch mesh, concrete reinforcement, or fiberglass particles included within the pour itself.
Mhm.
Have you settled upon which way you wanted to go?
I prefer the metal in the slab versus the mesh or the like fiberglass. I prefer that. So
Understand, and then
in the
also
metal rebar. Mhm.
I have to say that we've sat, I can't tell you how many times here with second, third, fourth owners of properties that have had ancillary buildings put up that had no idea what was beneath their concrete. And so when they look for our values and U values out calculated for res checks and et cetera, they had no idea what in the H was below the concrete.
Mhm.
I know when I built my own addition, I had to put a 2-inch solid core blue foam all around the perimeter of my property in the stem wall before we poured the mud. And I could verify that because I was there. It was my build.
Mhm.
Since we've had these other situations and people have fought like crazy to get these hot air furnaces installed in their garages as a after the fact situation, would it be prudent to consider adding the insulation below your mono slab?
I don't know that it wouldn't hurt the situation,
Or
as far as
cost-saving.
overall improvement of it. I don't know how much value that brings. And there again, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road, and all of us are not sitting in these seats again, other than inspection reports, what do we have to show for it?
Right. And we've had some uphill fights to get some people approved because
Mhm.
they didn't know.
Mhm.
Or the fact that it was a small investment and someone want to go ahead later on, put up some blanket insulation on the roofs, beneath the roof and on the walls. They could be stubbing their toes because they couldn't verify what was in the concrete.
Mhm.
So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
It's food for thought for the future. but that doesn't address the frost protection of this issue. You know, the issue here is the thickened slab monopore versus footer stem wall and then a slab poured inside. You know, if you look at it on a building this size, if we were to switch it to say to the footer style, you know, you're adding about $10,000 cost to this foundation, to this building in doing that. And then is it really the best foundation design for this application and the soil conditions that were encountered? And that's where the issue has come in all along for me and for Alpine Engineering, is that he designed based on soils, not just in a generic, you know, across the board, we're all going to have, you know, A-type foundation. And despite your soils type requiring a B-type foundation, that doesn't seem to be applicable. So I think the engineer designed what he felt was best for this site. And if we vary from that, and I've had this conversation with the building department also and representatives, if we change it to a footer or stem wall type design, who's responsible if this foundation fails? I mean, if we're going to vary from what the engineer says is best case scenario, who's responsible when this fails, if it fails in this scenario?
I understand that would require a recalculation, and I understand that.
Mhm.
I have a question, Carl. Were you present when the engineer used the backhoe to dig the test hole?
I personally dug it.
You personally dug it?
Mhm.
Because it says in the investigation under the soil test report, which is a different document, due to the inaccessibility of the site, a test pit was dug with a backhoe. Now, if you could get a backhoe in there, it sounds pretty accessible to me.
So
So what was inaccessible about this site?
So it's right off the back alley at the back of the property. It's a very narrow area, and people have their fence lines directly on their property line. So it makes for so the inaccessibility was Ralph's drill truck to get in there. My Mini X, I was able to get in there with no problem to dig the test hole. So that's what it was inaccessible for his rig, not mine.
Okay, and I'm familiar with soil testing rigs. You dug how many test holes?
We dug one in the footprint of the foundation.
And you hit water at 4 feet down.
Yep.
Did you think about digging another test hole to see if you move this foundation over a few feet, there would be no water?
So so the challenge there is already a very old shed structure on the site where this new one's going to be built that is in to be demoed at the time. So there is no room to dig another test pit. You know, we could have, if we went 3 feet over to one direction and went to the edge of the foundation, we could have dug one, but didn't seem worthwhile to do that. And, you know, that we dug a fairly large pit, so it wasn't just a drill hole that was done for this test site. You know, there was a trench dug that was about 6-7 feet long, 2 feet wide to access the ground. So it wasn't like it was just a single 4-inch, 6-inch hole that was dug.
Okay.
Carl, is he gonna do once you excavate, is he gonna do another open hole to look at it?
I don't know if that was required in this situation.
I was just curious if you would, well, because that would, once you dig it, you'll see if there's any other problems.
That is true. That could be an option to do an open hole inspection.
Well, being in Woodland Park since a long, long time ago, 50-some years, there's probably half of the buildings up here that have shallow foundations like this, if they've even got a foundation. I don't have any problem with doing what Ralph done. I think he knows what he's doing, and I agree with it.
I'm gonna agree with that as well.
A question for Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Are you intending or thinking about heating this at any time in the future?
No, never.
no electrical, not habitable. It's basically a storage building to park vehicles in. That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
As Mr. Cahill said, we've had several applicants come before us over the years, adding heat to a building that didn't have it initially.
Sure.
And that was not without quite a bit of conversation each and every time.
Yeah, guaranteed.
And this is going to be an all metal building above
is.
grade.
Yep.
You're gonna have a nice building.
I think so. Yeah. It's been a long time coming. We've owned the property since 1986, when my parents bought it. And I went to high school up here, elementary school, high school, all that. And they moved out of town long ago and I ended up purchasing it from them. And my wife and I plan to expire at the property.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Most of us up here could say the same thing.
I think that's why we're here. Yeah.
Let's see,
It'd make it a
Mark,
long time from now.
you have any more questions?
You know, I don't.
I
Cole?
don't have any further questions.
I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Welton.
John Welton Regional Building. So just, if we want to just verify exactly in the code what Carl and his client are up against. The regional building code, has certain exceptions for meeting frost protection. This particular structure, is, we'll just say over by a little bit of allowance number 4 or exception number 4, where it states a 1-story enclosed, non-habitable detached accessory structure of light frame construction, not more than 750 square feet in area with a thickened edge monolithic slab extending a minimum of 12 inches below grade, not retaining any soil. So, that's the code section that, this applicant is banging up against. This particular exception for frost protection has been in our code long before my time, even at RBD. And I can't answer where the magical 750 square foot number came from. Since I
Middle
was
80.
still east of the Mississippi when that conversation occurred years ago. But that's the code that this particular applicant is banging up against right now is our requirement for anything over 750 square feet to meet frost protection. I agree. The packet in front of you and the plan that was submitted to us, it is stamped by a registered design professional. So it has been evaluated. And that also would give us comfort. Obviously, if this board went a different direction and disapproved the request, the design would still, if it turned out to be spread footing and foundation and stem wall, it would still have to be designed by a licensed design professional. But we've seen instances of this on detached accessory structures in many cases, even in El Paso County, where groundwater has been, groundwater is present and it is impacting the potential design. You can't necessarily engineer away the code, but that's one of the reasons why boards like this exist, is for unique circumstances. And especially falling back on a stamped design, we have a structural engineer that believes this is the best system for this particular lot.
So basically, we have 2 professional engineers with different opinions of how to proceed with this foundation design. Your professional engineer and Carl's professional engineer.
Mac, I'm barely a code official.
Oh, okay.
I am certainly no engineer.
No, but I mean, you said you had a structural engineer look at this. Is that correct?
No.
No.
I said We have a structural engineer that has looked at this.
With
Right.
The
Alpine.
application in
The
front of you
applications.
and the plan that was submitted to us was done by a licensed design professional.
We're specifically addressing Alpine Engineering.
Mhm.
Yes.
So John, what I catch out of that is you're comfortable with it if we pass it.
Can't exactly say that from my seat on the record, but,
Okay,
all right.
Karen, you had something to say, ma'am?
I just wanted to clarify one point. The structure of the building is all metal, but we've met with Mr. Anderson about this particular project because the city code does require a mixture of materials for any structure that goes up, that all metal buildings are prohibited. So I know we worked pretty in depth to come to a solution that meets the intent of that code and serves this project and the applicant. Am I remembering correctly, sir?
So you are correct that we did have that conversation that was discussed. But in the process of that, we also were looking at the new wildland fire interface code that's not going to allow combustible materials on the exterior of a building. And even though that code has not gone into effect yet, it's coming down the pipe here pretty quick. Sometime, I think before, is it June 1st it has to be adopted, or July 1st, John?
John Welton Regional Building, as far as the wildfire resiliency code that you're speaking to, the state has mandated a local adoption date on or before April 1st
April
of
1st.
this year,
Mhm.
with an implementation date no later than July 1st.
Okay, thank you for that.
Jeff Cato.
So it runs into a little bit of a scenario here. Are we putting materials on this that in 2 months, adding cost to this building, that in 2 months wouldn't even be allowed? And I have a little bit of a struggle with that, with the city of Woodland Park requiring these materials. Yes, it's a metal building. It's going to be a brown metal building, natural type colors. It's not going to be sticking out like it's not going to have a copper roof and pink walls. So I struggle a little bit with that requirement, even though at that time when we met, I did agree that, and with speaking to Mr. Schmidt, that we would do that. But now we've been delayed, we're looking at 7-8 months into this project of going back and forth with the building department and the city on this, that we're buttoned up. We don't have a permit yet. And we're looking at a potential, code change that won't allow for those wood, burnable members on the outside of a building. So what precedents are we setting here, for wildfire resiliency and also architectural design?
I have a
Mr.
question.
Cahill?
Jeff Cato. Could there be some sort of language to satisfy the planning department that a non-combustible material be applied to one part of the fascia or one fascia partially up the front, like a wainscoting of faux stone or of concrete siding, imitation, wood-looking non-combustible material, without having to go through all the permutations of new plans? It was just a verbiage agreement between one department and the builder. Would something like that work? That would.
So if I may be so rude to interrupt, we need to get back to the reason we're here today, which is the variance on the foundation. We are not here to discuss what the exterior looks like. That's another group, another time. So
Just want to wrap this up for you, sir. I appreciate your additional information, Mr. Anderson, and for the record, it is actually part of the zoning regulations code section 18.33.180, where the architectural guidelines are found. And we will follow up separately with that, with options on that. But I just wanted to make it clear that per that section of city ordinance, and all metal building is not permitted. And then based on this other information, yeah, it sounds like we have other regulations that are going to need to be updated. At what point that happens, I'm not sure. Probably sooner rather than later. And then also it is the Board of Adjustment that hears variances to those standards and not the Building Board of Review. So to your point, to get back on topic related to the building code. Thank you.
So, John, are you finished with your input on this? Anybody have any questions for John? No more questions for Carl or John. I've asked twice, okay?
Right, yep, I'm good.
All right.
Okay.
Could I hear a motion, please? Jeff?
Based upon the architectural, the engineering, which has been done, and the recommendations from that letter, I would recommend that we approve the construction of this particular building. On variance and appeals hearings, number variance VAR 2026-01, hyphenated, I'm sorry, parenthetically, put B at 516 North Center Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Let's call for a roll call vote on this, please, Karen.
Sure. Jeff Smith,
Yes.
Martine Vogel,
Yes.
Cole Swanson,
Yes.
Mac McVicker,
Yes.
and Jeff Cahill.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Carl, you've got your variance.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I do appreciate your time of going through this exercise and I do think, Ralph's been around here a long time and I respect his opinion of what he designs and I think this is the best case scenario for this customer with the Schmidts here and moving forward. So thank you for this opportunity.
So I just have a question for Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
With groundwater just 4 feet below the surface in Woodland Park, which is pretty rare, were your trees there like 200 feet tall?
Yeah, they were 100 foot, 75 foot, 100 foot. Yeah, they were pretty tall.
Well, they were definitely lapping up that water just 4 feet down.
They were, yeah, yeah. And we actually had one blow down in the high winds we had last year. They caused some property damage, but yeah, as far as healthy trees, there's many of them. So
Very good.
yeah, we enjoy them.
All right.
John Welton Regional Building. Carl, based on the last or the original submittal, this the only disapproval comment that you recall from that plan submittal? I'm looking at it right now and it looks like we're approved in Woodland Park. The only disapproval I'm seeing is on construction.
So there was the disapproval of the foundation. That was a major stumbling block. There was an issue of the trusses with this particular metal building. We had a separate engineer go in and work on that. And the plans examiner struggled with reading those plans and finding that engineering. It took quite a bit of time and money on our part to get that over the hurdle. But I think we're good as long as the plans examiner has accepted the engineering for the metal building, which there again, it is a stamped set of plans for that building, so they should be.
Okay, so I'll get, with this approval today,
Mhm.
I'll get that information added back in to our system, hopefully by maybe 9:30 in the morning. So you should be able to resubmit and then our plan review staff will see the update of that variance result in there.
So what do I need to resubmit if they already have all the information? It's really just the approval of this variance that do I need to submit that or you?
No, I will put in the variance approval from this board.
Okay,
You will need to go back into your dashboard and resubmit the plans.
yes, dear.
We've got one thumbs up, so you and I are out.
Thank you. I appreciate that and your quick response to getting it done. Thank you. All right, well, I appreciate you guys and we look forward to making this project happen for Mr. Schmidt and having him in place to put all his toys. Mr. Schmidt is a master mechanic. He builds race cars and stuff like that. And, you know, I am jealous of a couple of his wheels he has sitting on the ground. I'll say that.
So before we move on, Carl and your team, you are welcome to stay to hear what John has to say about some of the stuff coming out from underneath the gold dome that affects every builder in this state.
Well, you know what? I may hang around for that, but the rest of the team's probably going to run out the door because they got other things to do at the office. But I'd love to hear your guys' take on that because we just recently had these same conversations at Teller County, and the stuff coming down the pipeline is huge, and so I'd love to hear you guys'
You're welcome to
comments on
stay.
it. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
So we have no unfinished business that I'm aware of. We're down to item number 9, new business. And this will cover some of the energy code stuff that grew out of House Bill 22-1362 coming up on, it was signed into law May of 2022, so almost 4 years old now. And it had a couple of things in there. Colorado model electric ready and solar ready sections, which were not fleshed out in the initial House bill. But the the energy director has got that almost completed now or very close to it. And John is here today to update us on that. John, you've got the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Board. John Welton, Regional Building. So many of us remember a number of years ago, started the code review process of the 2021 model codes. Towards the end of 2021, looking to do a adoption of those codes, and we accomplished that in 2023. One of the additional items that came into play due to House Bill 1362 was all of a sudden a truncated timeline on that code adoption, because if we did not get our adoption done by July 1st, 2023, then we had to move to what at that time was the state energy code, which would have been the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, and a then to be written model electric ready and solar ready code. So we were able to make it through all of our jurisdictions and get that code adoption done and implemented on June 29th.
And I just want to interrupt John. He did a masterful job of orchestrating this across what, 9 building departments?
8 jurisdictions.
8 jurisdictions to get around a drop dead date from the state in a very short interval. And I'm still amazed at what you did with that, John. Thank you.
Thanks. One of the other things we were able to do as part of that adoption was add in minor amendments into our code. Because of the way the House bill was written, we just could not make our code any less restrictive than one of the last 3 editions of the model energy code published by ICC. So as additional legislation over time has gone, and as House Bill 22-1362, not too long after we got our adoption done in 2023, was modified or amended at the state level. Then all of a sudden, you know, as far as the next trigger, the date July 1st, 2026 came into play. So the trigger for the July 1st, 2026 date is. If we don't move to what is currently the minimum state energy code, which is the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code unamended to include the Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code, then any adjustments after that date, so if we were to do anything with a code or the state were to change legislation, they could ensure that we move to the most recent published state energy code, which is the Model Low Energy and Carbon Code, which was published September 2nd of 2025. That code, in essence, it is based on the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code, which as a standalone code is not terrible. It has benefits compared to the 2021. However, what the state did at their level was they modified and amended that code and then incorporated into it the Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code Plus. So what our intent is and what we are moving forward with is to avoid a much more restrictive amended state code, the Model Low Energy and Carbon Code. We are going to move to adopt and implement the minimum state energy code, which is the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, to include the Model Electric and Solar Ready Code. And we're going to do that ahead of the July 1st, 2026 date. So our implementation and adoption date will be June 30th. So effective midnight, June 30th of this year, the code that we will be adopting and enforcing at a minimum will be the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, unamended. So that means June 30th, our amendments go away, and we will have to incorporate the Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code. By doing that, we feel like we can still provide options to our builders, our homeowners, and our communities. Just because we are going to move to adopt the unamended 2021, which is the state code. So the only blessing about this is by adopting a state code, we do not have to go to all of our jurisdictions and do a formal code adoption process. It's just like the electrical code, just like the plumbing code. Those are adopted at the state, and we can implement them. One of the key points for not only our communities but our builders and our homeowners to be aware of is you are not necessarily locked in to the 2021 just because we amend it or we adopt it. We can't amend it, but moving forward with adoption and implementation, we have a process that the code even covers, which is an alternative material and method request. We will allow builders, homeowners, to do projects out of the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code if they so choose. Now, the Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code will still have to be enforced, and that still will be a part of the project. But there could be advantages based on compliance pathways for our builders, our homeowners, out of the 2024, because the unamended 2024 in some cases is less restrictive than the unamended 2021. Depending on your current compliance pathway that you're working through out of the 2021, let's say, and I'm not trying to take a lot of time, but I do want to give you a couple of examples for context. Let's say out of the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, you're using the total building performance pathway for your compliance. One of the advantages of the 2024 is they have gotten away from total building performance. It is back to a simulated building performance pathway. The total building performance pathway does not allow trade-offs. The simulated building performance pathway will allow trade-offs. So, you know, there's one example of potentially looking at how you're reaching compliance for energy code now, digging into the 2024, looking at those compliance pathways and seeing if there's maybe a better option for you to utilize the 2024. If a builder, a homeowner wants to choose that path, they can do that with an application essentially for an alternative material and method request. Those are not variances. Those are approved administratively. And we say, okay, here's the code that we have adopted, but we're allowing you to use this newer code. When we get into, for instance, the R value tables in the 2024, we find that in a number of cases, R value requirements are less in the 2024 energy code than in the 2021. So someone currently doing prescriptive compliance pathways out of the 21 and working off of our amendments are going to find the 2021 R values to be much more restrictive and higher than what they are in the 2024 energy code. So there's a couple of quick examples from our standpoint, how we're trying to go ahead and start working towards this. Any builders that are using master plans, we've created a pathway for them, as long as there's no structural modifications to the house, to simply update their current master plans with a splice. It'll just be a code update splice for energy compliance only. At that point, they just tell us, are you working off of the 2021 energy code, or are you wanting to do a pathway through the 2024? The path that we're choosing is a lot of work on our staff. It's been a lot of work on the administrative staff. It's been a lot of work on our employees, because by us taking this pathway, our staff is now going to have to be very familiar with the 2021 energy code plus the 2024 energy code, because we are going to have builders that choose to use different pathways. Some are going to want to work out of the 2024. Others might decide to stay with the 2021 since that's what they're used to. But you know, that's kind of where we're at. I've had a running joke for about the last 4 months that I've had my head buried in energy code books and a model electric ready and solar ready code. The last 3 years went by really fast. Not really sure where they went. So there's the big update. As a courtesy, we were wanting to get this in front of, you know, all of our boards and committees, to include Woodland Parks Board of Review, ahead of, you know, sending out mass notifications, you know, to our building community. Again, we wanted the jurisdictions to have the courtesy knowledge that 3 years has gone by, and this is the hand that we have been dealt by the state, and we're bound to move forward with a state energy code. We're just trying to take the path that adopts the minimum state requirement and therefore open up as many potential pathways to our builders and homeowners as we can. I haven't gotten into too many of the code details, but hopefully And there's a lot. There's gonna be a pretty good learning curve for a lot of our contractors, a lot of our subcontractors, and our staff as well. But hopefully that at least gives you an idea of where we have to go and the timeline in which we have to do it.
John, can you share with us some of the electric and solar ready provisions as they stand now? I know it's been coming out of Denver, but it's probably pretty solid at this point. Could you share with us where it's at now?
Sure. John Welton Regional Building. So there's three specific elements that are going to be related to the model electric ready and solar ready code. These provisions are not only going to apply to 1 and 2 family dwellings, it will apply to commercial structures as well. On the electric ready elements, the easiest summary is everywhere you run a fuel gas appliance other than a fireplace, you will have to make provisions for a future electric appliance in that same location. So if you have a gas furnace, the model electric ready and solar ready code does not specify minimum services or minimum feeder sizes or breaker capacity in that code for anything on residential other than the future EV ready. So for the electric ready, if you have a gas furnace, you have to tell us what on the plan submittal, you have to tell us what the future circuit requirement would be for whatever the future electric plan is. It could be a heat pump, on a water heater, same thing. You've got to show us what the future electric load for hot water service piping would be, to heat hot water service piping. And again, it doesn't specify a minimum. So if you're on your individual project or a single family home, if your plan is, I'm putting in a gas water heater, but I want my future electric plan, whenever they do future electric, is going to be a heat pump water heater. There are many of those out there that can actually run off of a 125 volt circuit. I don't know how well they're going to heat the water, but they actually will run off of a 125 volt circuit. So your future plan could be a 125 volt circuit. If you run a gas line to your range, if you run a gas line to your clothes dryer, you have to plan for future electric in those locations. As far as solar ready, this one requires on the plan that you show the pathway of how you're going to run a future electric line from the panel to the solar ready zones up on the roof. At the time of plan submittal, if it is a site plan, or with a master plan at the time of a site plan submittal for permit, you will have to give us roof elevations. A site plan will always have true north on it. So the solar ready provisions require that solar ready zones be identified on any roof slopes over 70 square feet that are oriented between 110 and 270 degrees of true north. So on the plan, you're going to have to show us where your future ready zones are. In those solar ready zones, you can have no penetrations. So no plumbing vents, no mechanical vents, no exhaust fan terminations. Essentially, that area has to be left blank for future solar install. As far as the electric vehicle ready portion, the third element, every single family home, every townhome, every single family attached is going to be required to have one identified EV ready spot. That EV ready spot has to have a receptacle terminated that is a minimum of a 40 amp, 240 volt feeder to include the breaker installed, and that termination point of that future EV charger receptacle has to be within 3 feet of the identified EV ready space. As we get into the commercial side, it gets a little more complicated than that. On the commercial side, there are certain parameters for whether the building is over or under 10,000 square feet, whether the building is an R2 occupancy. That criteria kicks in to make determinations on whether for electric ready, you have to actually run the wire. So like on single family, you have to run the wire. You can't just run a conduit. On commercial, depending on where that breakout is of the project at hand, if it is over or under 10,000 square feet, that means you're either under 10,000, you got to run the wire. Over 10,000, you can run conduit. So there's different criteria that kick in for the commercial elements. You know, even to the point of if it's a big enough project, a larger commercial building could have multiple solar ready zones on the roof, and have to have interconnected pathways to be able to connect those multiple solar ready zones to each other and make their way back to the panel. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. And
Sold everything to the north and tell them to figure out where to sold it.
This is Mac McVicker. John, thank you for that explanation. I'm sure we've all got some questions for you if you have some additional time. For those of you that don't know, I'm an electrical engineer. And as this stuff was evolving from the state capitol, I proceeded to redo the design of the house I live in now, making it all electric. And I found real quick, first thing, I'm gonna need 2 main panels, because there's just not enough slots in a standard panel, even a large size. I would have to get a new transformer on my pole to drive all this and go from a 200 amp service to a 400 amp service. And if I did that across our small neighborhood of 45 homes, our electric provider, Core, doesn't have enough KVA coming into our subdivision to drive all that. Has anybody under the Gold Dome looked at the ramifications of doing this if it rolls out across the whole state and add in the growth we're currently seeing? We don't have enough electrical capacity, distribution, or transmission to support this. So what are they doing to resolve that issue?
John Welton Regional Building. Well, Mac, first, that'd be a great question for your elected officials. From a load standpoint, and we have exhausted conversations with whether it is industry members currently, internally, with our staff, to include, you know, a number of meetings with utility providers. So I guess the disconnect, if I can use that word loosely, between the Model Electric Ready code and the National Electrical Code is some of the verbiage. The Model Electric Solar Ready code uses the word capacity, you know, so panel capacity, service capacity. The NEC doesn't use the word capacity. It's all based on load. What's the load? So one avenue that people can explore is you can do a 200 amp panel with 30 breaker spaces. You can do a 200 amp panel with 48 breaker spaces. The NEC will allow for load management. So yes, the service to a single family dwelling might be 200 amps. And if we were to fully energize all of this as part of the electric ready provisions, you could have single family homes that needed 320 to 360 amps. But the NEC allows for load management. So there's a number of different ways that can be accomplished. You know, as small as a smart breaker. So single breaker that you have multiple, 2 circuits run into, and you're going to load management both of those. If you're connecting a EV charger, you might want that tied in, just as an example, not designing it for anyone, but you might tie that in on a smart breaker with your dryer. So it prioritizes the dryer. If the dryer's running, the EV won't charge. When the dryer turns off, the EV will start charging again. That's kind of the smallest example, right? Because now we're just talking about specifically at the breaker itself. You can even get into load management devices from a main panel to a sub panel. You can set up an entire sub panel to operate when that load management device says, okay, my primary load is not being used right now. Okay, we're going to move to the secondary panel. Third option is a whole and complete smart panel. So essentially this is, as an example, I'll call it a 50 space 200 amp panel, and you literally program the entire panel. If this set of lights is on in the house, this one has to dim to 50%, or this one can't turn on. If the dryer's running, the EV charger won't run. If the electric range is running, the washer won't run. And those are very broad examples, but I'm trying to also give examples based on the same circuit size, right? So we're talking 50 amp to maybe 40 amp. So there's a number of options that would be out there as far as whether or not the state is looking at anything related. I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm fortunately not in the legislature, so yeah, I don't know whether that is being addressed. I know to a lot of developers and a lot of utilities, it's a concern, based on the amount of infrastructure that is currently installed. And the way the pathway that we have to still accommodate is using what the NEC will allow us, and that is some of that load management.
Mac McVicker here again. Besides California, what other state in addition to Colorado has gone this far with their dictating energy usage in construction, homes, commercial, whatever?
John Welton Regional Building, Mac, I'd have to do some research to actually be able to give you an accurate answer. I know there's a lot of states that have statewide building codes. Obviously, Colorado is not one of those, but as far as a true number of how many, how many states adopt their codes at the state level versus how many states implement additional requirements on top of locally adopted codes. Oh, that would take a while. I don't know.
Well, every member of the legislature in this state says affordable housing is one of their key concerns. Then they turn around and add all this stuff to it. And that throws affordable housing even further in the distance for anybody to have an affordable house. I'm on propane. I love it. I'm glad I'm not on natural gas because I know what the state is doing to move the state on where people have natural gas away from it. I think, Carl, you were at a meeting with Teller County recently where this was discussed. And have you heard any rumblings, any rumors about how they want to do to propane users, what they're going to be doing to natural gas users in the next 10, 12 years?
I haven't heard anything about that.
So we're flying under the radar right now for a while.
I wouldn't talk too loudly then.
I know. Would you mind if I ask the audience if they have any questions for you?
I would love it if you would ask our wonderful audience if they had any questions.
Dr. Shannon
Yes.
This is Carl Audience Anderson, and thank you. Several things come to mind from your overview. First off, when it comes to electrical energy code that's being mandated, the technology of electrical components changes daily. And unfortunately, this electrical mandate, this electrical energy code, is based on technology that was developed years ago. Not even technology that was developed today or tomorrow. And it's supposed to be for future wiring, future components that don't exist, a technology that doesn't exist. So you're going to spend money on wiring and components today that are probably not going to be compatible with the future. That's the part that frustrates me with the electrical mandate that the governor's office has pushed down. So there is serious opposition to this. So I want you to consider that before you agree to adopt anything. What is actually going to be used in the future? You look at, I personally, I have solar panels on my home. I have solar panels on my RV. I have solar panels on my big truck, and I have portable solar panels for charging other things. I like solar panels to an extent, but they certainly are not a replacement for our power plants, whether they be coal or nuclear or whatever they are. They just don't have the technology. And if you really start looking at renewable energy and renewable sources of energy, geothermal, which has been around for quite a long time, is up and coming in our own area. There's actually in Teller County, there's one going in right now. And the statistics I was given on the geothermal, you take 10,000 square foot footprint on the ground of geothermal is the equivalent of 5 acres of solar panels. So think about, I think the math is about 1 to 20 in that realm. So we're preparing a home for technology that's already a dinosaur. That's what we're doing. So we need to think about this. And Mr. Welton, I would welcome your research on this and talking to legislators. And I will tell you, I've already talked to 2 legislators in the past couple of weeks pertaining to the wildfire code and the energy codes that are coming down, and looking at putting legislation to try and fix some of these issues that don't work today, let alone tomorrow. So these are things that I would appreciate your advocacy on when it comes time to testifying in Denver. Give me the hand, give me the help, because these legislators that really don't understand what they're governing on, are pushing down our throats. And then I'm really curious, your endeavor with the 21 Energy Code. There's obviously so many deficiencies in the 21 Energy Code, and there was so many issues with it that they attempted to correct with the 24 Energy Code, which are acknowledging by saying we're going to have a pathway through the 21 Energy Code to the 24. Why not just go straight to the 24 Energy Code that address some of those issues in the 21 Energy Code? And then at that time, take the 24 Energy Code and look at how can we amend that to make that better and more suitable for Teller County and Woodland Park. So I'm curious, John, obvious that you guys have spent lots of brain energy on this 21 Energy Code and looking through it to the 24 Energy Code. You're not stuck, as far as I know, you're not stuck with having to implement the 21. You can go to the 24 and not have the confusion with not just the architects, engineers, and builders and homeowners, but your own planning staff on being able to know what is necessary truly for home designs and energy code. So I'm curious why you guys didn't just look at going straight to 24.
John Welton Regional Building. Carl, we looked at every possible scenario. At a minimum, we have to go to the 21. That
I agree.
there's your state law.
Mm-hmm.
At a minimum, we have to go to the 21. Yep. There are still cases and pathways where people may want to utilize pathways in the 2021. If we look at a current pathway in the 2021 versus how it might have changed in the 24. Let's say we've got a builder that is working off currently the U-Factor alternative pathway in the 2021. The 2021 U-Factor alternative, if you go to the 2024, it is no longer the U-Factor alternative. For that prescriptive pathway, it is now called component performance.
Okay.
So essentially, what was a prescriptive, I'm going to take my assemblies and each of those little U-Factor numbers for the assembly, and I'm going to get up to a passing score. Now, all of that has to be rerun through calculations, not just for U-Factor, but it's based on U-Factor to get to now what's the thermal conductance of that assembly. By going to the 24, they have moved the additional energy options. Right now under the 21, there's 5 you can pick from. You're going to do, all of your ductwork and air handler within the building thermal envelope or conditioned space.
Yeah.
You're going to hit 5% over your target. Yeah. And just throwing out, those are some of the options as far as additional energy options. So you pick one. So under the 21, you can do U-Factor alternative, prescriptive, run off the U-Factor tables, come up with, all it's got to do is pass. 0.001 is still passing above that minimum. And then for your additional energy options, you pick one of 5. I'm just gonna keep all my ductwork within the conditioned space. To do that same pathway in the 2024. So if we were to skip the 21, go the 24. That's the path you would have to choose if you were doing or wanting to still try and do what was the U factor alternative. The additional burden that the 2024 kicks in on that is when it comes to the additional energy options. It's moved to a point-based system. So how the commercial side has been a points-based system, through the 2018 and the 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've moved residential to a points-based system. Got to have 10 points worth of additional energy options, but a minimum of 2. And in our climate zone, with a lot of those energy options for a 5B climate zone being NA'd, that 2024 really limits you on your additional energy options. So those were the elements that we took into account as far as if we went to the 2024, that does make things a little more restrictive on the prescriptive side for the additional energy options. On the 2021, you have compliance pathways that you can still get to compliance, but it doesn't increase the burden of the additional energy options. The other thing is, if we went to the 2024 and somebody still wanted to utilize the 2021, the AMM process doesn't go backwards. You can't use an older code. So by going to the 21, which is the state minimum, at least up until June 30th, we can say, all right, if you want to use the 21, you can use it. If you want to use the 24, you can use it. Through an AMM to use a newer code, you can utilize that code. And we felt like the option we've chosen gives the most options to our industry.
So I don't disagree that that's the way it sounds like, there's more options available, but I mean, I may be mistaken, but I believe what I've been informed of so far on the 24, that it would still be easier and more cost effective to get to a buildable structure through the 24 energy code versus the 21. Whether it's the minimum standards haven't changed, the R values haven't changed, or even just the options to meet the energy code in 24 is easier to do than 21.
I'm not disagreeing with you on the word easy. I don't know if there's an easy.
No,
option.
easy went away with the UBC code.
And a lot of that is going to have to be builder specific. If there's a pathway in the 24 that you feel is easier and cost effective, we have a pathway for you to utilize that 2024. It's really hard to compare apples to apples when we're talking about easy and cost effective. Because for every individual that says, do the 24, it's easier and cost effective. There's a builder, there's an industry member that says, I have honed down on the 2021 pathway so well that to me is the easiest and most cost effective. A lot, for instance, the builders that do energy rating index, that pathway, when you look at energy rating index in the 21 versus energy rating index in the 24, it's the same pathway really. it's the same criteria as to get to your minimum score that you need. So let's say for our climate zone, that's a what, 52.5, I think, on your HERS rating. So for builders that want to do energy rating index, would you rather do energy rating index out of the 21 and only just have to pick one of these 5 additional energy options? I mean, I'm doing energy rating index, so all my systems are probably within the condition space.
Mhm.
Or do I want energy rating index out of the 2024? Same software for the most part that creates the criteria. Same score, but yet now out of the 2024, okay, I'm going to still keep all of my systems within the building thermal envelope. Cool. I got to have 10 points. I only get 2 points for that. I got to keep going. So, you know, again, and not that I'm trying to be biased, because I have spent a lot of time on this over the last 4 months, maybe even longer. But we really feel like going the path we're going and taking the minimum code gives us the most pathways that our industry can use. You can choose to use the 24 if you want. That's an alternative material and method request to utilize the 2024. Or you can find your pathway in the 21 that you might already be doing, and that pathway in the 21 may end up being more cost effective than what you might run into with the same pathway of the 24. And again, vice versa. Those that are on total building performance right now out of the 2021, once we move to an unamended code, may find that the simulated performance pathway out of the 2024 is a better option. But right now, what we're trying to do for industry is you got the best of both worlds. You pick what works for you, and a lot of people are going to really heavily lean on those third parties. You know, the energy raters, and you know the people that are designing, you know, the software, to, you know, hey, here's my current path. Do I stay on it, or do I try and utilize something out of the 21?
No, I think it's a creative solution that you guys have come up with. But I'm not sure anything that I've read has ever said that a home designed and built under the 21 is cheaper than a house designed and built under the 24 energy code. So I'd be very curious to do a little more research on that. So far, what I've heard, 24 would be a cheaper alternative as far as the codes go for construction of a house.
Gentlemen, I'm enthralled by the data you guys are bringing forth. We do have to bring this meeting to a close.
I'd like to pile in here real quickly before you do that, sir. No, they're relevant points here, I promise. So the first one is, John, thank you very much for that update. And based on my experience working with builders and such, I know the flexibility is definitely appreciated, because what works for one builder doesn't necessarily work for the other. So I really appreciate your ability to keep all options on the table, just so that we rely on that particular professional to sort out what works for them. So thank you for that. And then related to that, I know ICC has their Education Institute coming up that first week in March up in Loveland this year. So that's a great training opportunity to become more familiar with codes and such. I imagine a lot of those energy code sessions are probably more than booked already. So my question is, was RBD going to do any training around this topic. And if you don't know yet, I just want to again offer us to provide space and training venues if you would like to do something like that in this part. Because I know the last time you did a training up here, you had pretty good attendance.
Yes, we did.
John Welton, Regional Building. As of right now, we do not currently have plans
Okay.
to do training. And a lot of that is based on when we moved from the 2015 to the 21, even with our minor amendments, there were huge changes. This time around, we're already on the 21. Essentially what this adoption for the state code does is you just lose a page and a half out of the regional building code. And I'd hate to waste everybody's time, for only saying 30 seconds worth of, we're just losing our amendments. We can keep it on the table, but our plan as of right now, was not to do, formal training, classes like that again, since really the biggest crux of this is, unfortunately, we lose our amendments. The industry has the flexibility to use either code. And from a training perspective, we really can't train people on what their compliance pathway should be. That's something that the builder, the third parties, and the owners have to work out as far as, how tight do you want your house? Do you want to heat it with a candle?
And then
And need an air exchanger.
So my very last question is, because I'm a smart aleck at heart, is I have to know, the solar appurtenances that end up on these roofs, are they combustible? Thank you.
Well, that one's an easy one to answer because the Model Electric and Solar Ready Code, nor anything else currently on the table related to a House bill or Senate bill mandates the installation of solar. This is strictly solar ready. You just have to leave a clean space on the roof in case somebody wants to install it one day down the road.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, folks. Oh, I second Karen's thanks to John. I know John has been involved with this, not just the last 4 months, but some of you may not know. John spent about $15,000 of regionals money 5 years ago. No, 4 years ago, fighting House Bill 22-1362. Hired a lobbyist to go up there and try to do their best to knock down some of these things along with a bunch of other lobbyists, which failed. And we appreciate that, John. We appreciate the time you and your team spend on trying to give builders these options and understand a constantly changing environment. And I've got one request for Carl. Have you ever considered being on the IECC committee?
I'll just add it to my to-do list.
Okay. Because you understand not only the construction techniques, but the dollars and cents behind those various options. And I think your input on that committee would be very valuable.
Appreciate it. Talk further offline.
Okay.
So, and then, Mr. Chair, the last thing I wanted to note was your next meeting is February 10th. That's a Tuesday, February 10th at 2:30 in this room. We have a training scheduled with one of our city attorneys related to quasi judicial proceedings, conflicts of interest, those kind of basics. So just a refresher for all of that.
So as much as I appreciate all of you being here today, if you could be here on February 10th, that would be as well much appreciated. Because we're having one of our city attorneys come educate us.
Boy.
Oh, boy. All right, we're done, I think, with all the discussions and everything today. I hereby declare this meeting adjourned.